Okay, I think we're rolling. Let's start with a little melody. See here. Yeah, so that's the melody of Martin Luther's children's song from 1542, exposing the two arch enemies of Jesus Christ. And first and foremost is in regards to the papacy, and the second is in regards of the Mohammedans. Now, this song has been censored in many versions, and in any case, I've been looking into that. Very beautiful song, a Protestant song from 1542. So anyway, so I was thinking now it's actually the day that we should speak about the Antichrist, and I guess both are running in regards of Channukah and Christmas, and I would think it would be fit to speak about the Antichrist as well. This is the day that he is. I haven't checked it actually in regards of coming live from but it should be today that the Antichrist is coming live on the television, directly down from the Vatican, doing all his abominations and so forward. Why do I actually have my old glasses on when I should have my new? Well, that is my new glasses actually. Oh well, maybe we can find them. That's weird. Any case, so let's see if we have them in here. Nope. I don't know where I put my new glasses. Incredible. Yeah. Anyway, so we could talk about the Antichrist. The Antichrist being the papacy. That is the office and seat of the Antichrist. I could have put that. Incredible. Oh well, I guess I'll find it at some point again. That's just annoying. Oh well, so of course the Antichrist, the little horn that thinks to change times and laws, is sitting on the Roman beast. It's Roman in nature, and it persecutes the saints, and the saints, that it is. The saints are those keeping the commandments, protecting and guarding them, and the testimony of Jehovah. So, and of course we see in the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation, we see it pretty much being exposed, and that was one of the things that the Protestants began to understand, and they looked to history as well. And, the Antichrist, in regards of the papacy, is the historical, biblical, prophetic, Antichrist. The man of the number 666. And it seems to go all through pagan sun worship, the dead sun, So, yeah. I even have the one of the last things I found was in regards of the magic square of the sun or something like that. You can look that up on Google. And you will see the number of the sun in regards to this amulet, whatever, pagan bullshit and all that. What do you think is the number? Well, the number is 666. And I think these amulets can actually be found before the book of Revelation was written and all that. So that's, I guess, and just pointing in the direction of the sun again, interesting, right? All pagan bullshit, the winter solstice and all that, where the birth of the false sun god in regards of the literal dead sun is born, and all that. Yeah. So I was thinking about Channukah and all that, and I don't want to keep Channukah. I just, I have enough, what shall we say, just learning that's more than enough for me in regards to just learning the festivals found actually in the law of Jehovah, the Torah. So that's the ones that I want to keep, and, I'm still not, I still have issues with those. But that's would be the thing that I would like to. So yeah, any case, so I remember years ago I read these 21 pages in regards of Channukah, the history and all that, and I can't really remember what they said. You learn some. This like. It's like a full glass, every time I put something in it, something else jumps out, right? But I can remember my conclusions, and already apparently, I can see from some old chat things and all that, I already had concluded that I wouldn't keep it anyway, even if, And then you see some of these rabbinic things, in regards of Channukah as well, that God commanded us to do this and that. That's utter bullshit. And of course, this is, I guess, in regards of the rabbis saying that this and that and all that, and the blind leading the blind and so forward, and of course we shouldn't call anyone a rabbi than Yeshua, right? So that's in any case, that's the same with these fakers running around in the Roman Catholic Church. They call themselves what? They call themselves father, but they're fagos, That's pretty much what you just call them, fagos, right? And then you have the big guy, right? That unholy faker on top, right? Who calls himself Holy Father, right? And calls himself, the so-called Pope and all that. I call him the Poop. But anyway, it might not be so sweet, but, it's at least more honest, So, any case, such in regards to the Antichrist being the office and seat of the papacy, let's go for Channukah. Now, of course, again, it is the day that I guess one could really, really speak again, because the Antichrist is doing his abominations down in Rome, and I think that is in the night, today, that, that's like, some, and seen on the television and all that, whatever. Anyway, but yeah, people don't talk about the Antichrist anymore, it seems. But anyway, let's get to the Channukah thing. And I read these 21 pages, some years ago, and they commented there. Okay. And that's, of course, in regards to the new movie they made. It's a lot softer than, the new movie they made in regards to the Christ Mass question. Christ Mass, just listen in the word Christ Mass. It goes back to the Roman Antichrist and his cookie Jesus, his false cookie Jesus. It's their wafer God. They actually believe that this little cookie, this round cookie looking like the sun, actually become Jesus and thereby divine. And then the priest apparently has this amazing power to turn the cookie into God. Yeah. And of course, they use Greek philosophy to understand how it, transformed, transubstantiation and all that bullshit. It was a big topic in regards to the beginning Reformation and all that. But anyway, I'm just having some issue here. Okay. Looking for the PDF. But anyway, I read this PDF, many years ago, and I can't really. And I read the books of Maccabees as well. And again, I must say a lot of the information has been lost. Oh, here we go. And we have some of my latest notes, I guess, in regards of that was a Church of God, Church of Mexico, something like that. That was interesting. we turn to robots for answers and forget about Jehovah. I saw this, that people are like turning to this robot. What is it called? I can't remember, so-called her name, and they're turning for answers to a robot. It's like, give me a break instead of turning to Jehovah. It's another one. It's all pagan, but let's keep it anyway. What other Roman bullshit? Yeah. It's like, when you're hearing these people talking about Christ Mass and saying, yeah, it's all pagan, but let's just keep it anyway, right? I guess it's better than actually these people that just totally deny that Christ Mass has any pagan roots and all that. And it's just all over. How dishonest do you need to have to not see any pagan roots in regards of Christ Mass? It's all over. All over. That's just, anyway. So let's see here. We need to trash all the names of the weeks and months, and get back to biblical ground. Why even promote the lie of a pagan sun calendar and all its rotten bullshit? Yeah. And, you have the month, which is, in regards of Rome. You have some of the month in regards of numbers, let's see here. September... This September, October. September is 7, October is 8, November is 11. No, am I October? No, I'm never good in regards of the September, November, isn't it? No, September, October, November. No. Wait. Okay, September 7, October 8. And October, November 9, and then you have December, which is 10. That would go. And as it was the end there, so I remember. But anyway, no, wait. It was actually I can't remember. I lost that information. But you have different numbers, and then of course you have Julius in regards of the month of July, which goes back to Julius Caesar, and then you have Augustus as well in regards to August. So, and as I remember, they thought themselves to be gods, right? And probably both of them were Pontifex Maximus. At least Julius Caesar apparently was, Pontifex Maximus, the high pagan priest. And of course, Constantine was Pontifex Maximus. He was the high pagan priest of sun worship in regards of Sol Invictus, Mithra and all that bullshit. Many names for the sun god and all that. And apparently they, in regards of using the word Sol Invictus, that was like apparently, one of the sources I read, it was like an ecumenical thing because there was many sun gods and they just fix it, you have the sun birth and everybody is celebrating the sun birth apparently, right? So in regards to the winter solstice, so it was an ecumenical thing as I understand it. Mithra is Sol Invictus, It's just, he is the sun god. Anyway, and of course we see in the 4th century many things happening and and in the 4th century we actually see the beginning of promoting Christ Mass, and we see the pagans coming into the Roman Catholic Church and all that bullshit. And the creation of the amalgamation with the whole pagan system and putting sheep clothing on and all. Anyway, that's another topic. On the natural level, both Christ Mass and Channukah descends from ancient celebrations of winter solstice. This is a Jewish book by Hearing Writing Down. The source is the Encyclopedia of Jewish Symbols. So they say there's like 2 Jewish women talking about these different things. And they say, on the natural level, both Christ Mass and Channukah descends from ancient celebrations of the winter solstice. Oh, really? Anyway, let's see here. Another one. In pre-Christian Rome, under the Julian calendar, the day was dedicated to Janus, god of gateways and beginnings, for whom January is named. So that's another pagan god. And that's when we celebrate the false pagan New Year. Yeah, anyway. So let's see. When people say Jesus is the reason for the season. Oh, really? And I thought it was all pagan satanic sun worship clothed in sheep clothing. Oh, yeah, I must have gotten it all wrong. Anyway, we have another one here. The Roman Emperor Elagabalus 218 to 222, introduced a festival culminating on December the 25 called Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquerable sun. The use of the title Sol Invictus allowed several solar deities to be worshipped collectively, including Elagabalus, a Syrian sun god, the patron god of Emperor Aurelian, and Mithras. Anyway, so there we go, Channukah, the fire festival. And by the way, I have another source saying that Channukah is actually tied to the winter solstice. I had a professor as well. And we have the Shamash. This is a pagan, Jewish pagan, and she says, I placed the Shamash, which shares its name completely coincidentally, I'm sure, with the Mesopotamian god of the sun. Yeah, and the Shamash is the middle of the candle of these. You have 8, and then you have 1 in the middle that is like the one that you light the others one with and all that. So I looked up Shamash in regard to, and I've done this in the past, but regathering information to remember things again. So I looked it up in Britannica topic Shamash, and Shamash in Mesopotamian religion, the god of the sun. Now, anyway, of course, they will call this middle candle the servant, that is in regards of Hebrew, the servant or the helper or something like that. I don't know, whatever. It's just interesting. At least there's, it's something that's not it's not commanded in the in the written Torah. And I know there are things where, like, they say, like, we're lighting this candle, or thanks for the commandment, they're thanking God for a commandment he never gave, and that's, of course, not the only time they do it. There's a lot of other places where they thank God for commandments that wasn't given to them. Here we have from New York Times. I would say there is undoubtedly a theological connection between Christmas, Channukah, and the rebirth of the sun god near the winter solstice. Morten Wagman, professor of history, Kingsbury Community College. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, there's some more information there. In regards, Professor Simon Skamar suggests that in all likelihood, both Channukah and Christmas were designed to compete with the persistence of idolatrous sun worship. Indeed, the people of ancient Mesopotamia, and this is just one of the things that is interesting, because I guess Mesopotamia might have been, I still need to research, but as I understand it, that's the beginning of things, right? That's where, isn't that, I think it's that where the Tower of Babylon is and all that, and where God splits the people from there, right? But anyway, what is interesting is that indeed the people of ancient Mesopotamia, especially the Babylonians, were accustomed to light up their houses and carry torches and braziers in the later half of the month of Kislevu, November to December, to celebrate what? The rebirth of the winter sun god from his long abode in the kingdom of the dead. Isn't that interesting? If they already were, one thing is to, you have these stories that people believe in regards of coming from the 2 Babylons and all that, and apparently there's not really any verification for, some of these things and all that. There's a lot of, I haven't really gone deeper in it, but the story of Nimrod and Semiramis, some says that's totally bullshit and all that. I haven't really, apparently people say there's no evidence for these things and all that. But in any case, if you go back to Babylon, it does seem like they already had problems, running with the devil, Yeah, it wouldn't be so, using the Bible. We know that that Jehovah, said, "Let us go down and confuse their languages," right? That tongue, So and he goes down and do that, and we have like 70 nations from that. If they already were going into pagan bullshit, well, that would, of course, it wouldn't be so far-fetched to think that it would actually be pretty logical and reasonable to say that their traditions might have gone, in all these directions of these different nations. And of course, we know that the nations went for Satan instead of God, right? So, and God chooses Abraham out of all this bullshit that is going out in the world. Anyway, I should get back to the PDF that we would like to read. You can always take it in so many directions and just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Actually, I also found the guy that I was seeing like many years ago, and I couldn't find him again. I remember looking for him, and he's like a slim guy with glasses and all that, and he was talking about the nations after the flood, and he was also talking about evolution, how it leads back to India and all that. And who knows, it might leads to Babylon, I don't know, but he leads us back to India. He goes, and then the Greeks pick up, and then the Romans, and then of course later on we have it popular in popular in regards of Darwin and all that, making this pagan bullshit popular, which of course is nothing to do with the Bible. In any case, let's get this downloaded. That's great, and let's open it. And the question is which one I should take. This one is probably the best. I haven't really found a... I must say, let's try the other one. Download, and let's take the other program. This one. I haven't really found the thing, that's like black and white. And if we turn it around here, we should have it bigger on the screen. Let's get to the document and not me free flying everywhere in every kind of direction and all that. But I did find the guy again. That's very nice, and he's and I had to look deeper into what he has of subjects and all. There's huge amount of subjects that one can research, and in regards of the nations after the flood. There's a book called After the Flood of Noah, I think it is, and he's educated guy as well, and he has like a second edition of that book. That would be interesting to look into as well. We of course have some historical, different people that knows they are descended from, this and that and so forth. So yeah. Anyway, let's get to the Channukah thing, because I read this, a good amount of years ago, and I can't remember much of it. So to refresh my memory, I was thinking maybe I should read it again, and let's make a video, I guess, So let's get on. It's called Channukah, Festival of Dedication or Pagan Fire Festival, ? Did we actually also read that was the professor and the Jewish source? That's two sources that, I just found the latest sources that I just, posted on my Facebook, The same thing in regards of pagan sources of Christ Mass, I just went down that hole again and found even more information in regards of putting the pieces together in regards of Christ Mass actually being pagan, in regards of celebrating the birth of the sun god Sol Invictus or Mithra, and many other names, and you can see some of the connections from one god to another god, where you can find sources connecting Sol Invictus to, I think it was Helios, and you can see Mithra connecting to, Sol Invictus, of course, but also other gods, and, so it's all pagan bullshit, pretty much. And they might have had some differences in regards of their sun god thing and all that, but they seem to have been in a pretty good agreement in regards of the birth of the sun. Anyway, So Channukah, let's get back to it. Channukah, festival of dedication or pagan fire festival. Yeah. Uh, the modern holiday of Channukah is celebrated for 8 days, beginning of the 25th of the 9th month Kislev. The main ritual of Channukah, and that was something I read something in regards to the 25 of that it's put in a time where it's actually also dark, because in regards to the Jewish or actually the biblical calendar, you are going by the moon. So if you're actually placing it at the 25, the Jewish calendar is different than the Roman pagan calendar. The Jewish calendar goes by the moon, and thereby, it uses the moon and in some sense in the sun as well. You have a calibration and all that of this, and you can have 12 or 13 moons in a year and so forward, because it calibrates. So the new year is in spring, so and not in the winter. Now, if we actually moved it to spring, we could do that and be much more close to the truth in regards to the new year. Even if we use the Roman calendar, if we just and in the past apparently did keep another new year than we are keeping in our days. So anyway, let's just get back to it. But that was something in regards to 25. This is in the late month, so that would be darkness, and some believe that would be one of the reasons why it was also but of course it also goes back to the Maccabeans. So but the thing is, it seems like it became it evolved, and the Jewish girls writing the book seems to have some information about that the Jewish so-called rabbis don't even want, they don't want to have anything to do with the Maccabeans and all that, that the name was not written in the Talmud or something. I haven't checked it, and I don't have any, whatever. So they, as I understand it, they put in these doctrines, which, is now being done today. So, but anyway, so the main ritual of Channukah is lighting of an 8-branch candelabrum, which in Hebrew is called Chanukiah or Chanukah menorah. Chanukah candelabrum. I guess maybe that's Latin or whatever. Anyway, but we know that the menorah has 7 candles and not 9. So already there, I see a problem here. Why would you be having 9 lights of menorah when the Bible are talking about a 7-candle menorah? Anyway, and when there might be also a connection in regards of paganism in regards to sun worship, sun birth and all that, the winter solstice, and you light the one candle in the middle, which is called Shamash, which, if we go to Mesopotamia, actually is the sun god. Sometimes things have a double meaning, right? Sometimes there's the thing that is in the front, and then there's the thing that in the behind, right? Anyway, at least it's not written in the Bible, so I wouldn't do it. Anyway, and of course we have another thing in regards to these so-called rabbis, in regards of people saying that this prayer that Jehovah commanded them to do this and all that, and gave them the command, which is utter bullshit. And this is not, of course, the only time they say that, but it's utter bullshit, because we don't find it in the Torah. We don't even find the festivals in the Torah. Anyway, so one candle is lit for each day of the festival, and one for each day that has elapsed. So on the first day, a single candle is lit. On the second day, 2 candles, and so on, until 8 candles are lit on the 8th day. Some Channukah menorahs have a 9th candle, which is used to light the other 8. Until recently, the Channukah menorah consisted of 8 oil lamps instead of 8 candles. And many Jews still follow the former practice. So, oil lamps and candles. Yeah, okay. So the 8 8-branched Channukah menorah differs from the 6-branched menorah candelabrum used in the tabernacle and temple. And I'm not sure, okay, I guess why they would call it like a 6, I just, it's like 7 lights. But maybe there's something in regards to the Bible, in regards of that. But yeah, okay, in any case. So according to rabbinic legend, that would be the, the, I don't know how to say it, but yeah, anyway, let's just read it. But, call no one rabbi than Yeshua, right? Yeshua is the only rabbi that we are to, look to. He's the rabbi, he's the master, he's God in the flesh. He is the Son of God. He is the one that, that we need to follow after. Not those people calling themselves fathers or, rabbis down here on earth, So according to rabbinic legend, the 8 candles of the Channukah menorah represent a miracle that occurred during the dedication of the altar in 165 BCE. And that year, an army of Jews led by Judah and Maccabee liberated the Jerusalem temple from the Seleucid Greeks who had filled it with idolatry. And of course, it's interesting reading in regards to what happened at that time. But this is like they make up a second Sukkot, which is not commanded in the Bible, as a tradition, So anyways, let's just go on here. But the rabbinic legend relates that the Maccabees searched the temple for pure oil with which to light the candelabrum, but only found a single vial that remained undefiled by the pagans. By a great miracle, this single vial of oil lasted for 8 days, giving the Maccabees enough time to produce new vials of pure oil. The rabbis explained that the 8-branched Channukah menorah represents the 8 days of miraculous light in the time of the Maccabees. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just in regards of calling them. I don't know what else to call them. And they are blinding the Jewish people. I saw some of the Jewish testimonies, and one of them, at least one of them, was stirred up that like they have hidden this away from the people from us for 2,000 years. I think actually there's at least 2, but I remember one on my side. There's at least one. I was like, they're hidden this away from us for 2,000 years, So, yeah. And I heard one of these rabbis talk when I was in Israel. And, slick as a snake. Intelligent and slick, very clever, very, very clever. Anyway, I just couldn't. I at that point, that was in some sense, in regards of Yeshua saying that my sheep knows my voice. I didn't know that voice at all. I ended up, fleeing. That was just utter bullshit. But anyway, by the way, here we have some of the notes. They see Kitsur Shulchan Aruch 139. 4, which says that it is best to use olive oil for the Channukah menorah. And we also have Exodus 25:37. I don't know where the number 2 was. Okay, apparently in regards to the temple here. So the 8, there's in regards of the 6-branch menorah used in the tabernacle and temple. Okay. So the rabbis explained that the 8-branched Channukah menorah represents the 8 days of miraculous light in the time of the Maccabees. And of course, the story is not found in the book of the Maccabees. So it doesn't seem like it actually happened according to those books. To commemorate the miracle of the magical oil, the Channukah menorah is lit along with the blessing. Blessed art thou, Lord, King of the universe, who has sanctified. That's the thing. That's the prayer, right? So they say, blessed art thou, Lord. And this is not the only place where Jews are doing these. They have a lot of, but they rejected that Messiah. So what would you expect? They are. And don't get me wrong. I don't hate Jews. but the truth is the truth, right? And I'm not an anti-Semite or whatever they call it, but I've been called that by Jews because they killed Yeshua, and apparently that's an anti-Semitic statement. Apparently the truth is the truth. They know they killed him, so I don't know how that becomes an anti-Semitic statement. They killed their Messiah, they hanged it, and the Jews do know that. And they have sources on hanging Yeshua, which they call Yeshu, which is an acronym for may his name be blotted out or obliterated. You can go look that up as well. But they call him Yeshu. He has a special place in regards to the Jews. So they don't even call him Yeshua. They just call him Yeshu. So they have some historical hatred against Yeshua. The thing is they saw Yeshua as the destroyer of Judaism because it was pretty much breaking all their man-made laws. So and now the Christians are running to man-made laws like this festival of Channukah and all that, and they will say Yeshua kept Channukah. Well, it just says that he was there in the temple at the time of Channukah. In regards of that, it was the time of Channukah, just talking about when it is. And as far as I can see, Yeshua was already there. He went up to Sukkot and he stayed there until Channukah. So he would have been there for a couple of months. And then it's just talking about, what's, when it is and so forward, like a timestamp and all that. I don't see Yeshua actually keeping it. He was just teaching in the temple as he has done for a couple of months since Sukkot, as far as I can see. Maybe I should reread that, but I think it's John 10 that is in regards to Channukah, and then chapter 7 or something like that. He goes up to Sukkot, but as far as we can see, he stays there. Anyway, so it's not saying that he was keeping Channukah. It's just, people say, oh, but he only went up for the festivals he kept. But, he didn't go up. He was already there. And it's just stating that it's in regards of the Jews keeping Channukah. So I don't see how that could be any proof of him actually keeping it. And but anyway, so to commemorate, that's my view anyway. So to commemorate the miracle of the magical oil, the Channukah menorah is lit along with the blessing, blessed art thou, Lord King. And another thing is, I read some of their prayer books, and you can actually find prayers where it's like, this is about Yeshua. This is about Yeshua. This is about Yeshua. The first time I was in Israel, I was like, this is about Yeshua. This is about Yeshua. I didn't understand what the guy was speaking. He spoke a lot of Hebrew. So I was reading that prayer book and from behind, so that would be the way we usually read an English book, So, but behind from their view and all that, and it had the Hebrew prayers and also translated into English. So I was sitting there and reading the English prayers, I was like, this is about Yeshua. And it's like that they don't see it like that. But I was like, wow, that's incredible. And actually, I got some wetty eyes by, wow, this is amazing. Anyway, if you go to Israel or check some of the Jewish prayer books, you can find that for yourself. I can't remember the names of these prayer books, but I've seen it in at least two, that they have in regards of Yeshua, and yet they don't see it themselves. Anyway, blessed art thou, Lord, King of the universe. And what does it say? Who has sanctified us with his commandments and what? Commanded us to light Channukah candles. Really? Has God commanded them to do that? Where do you see that in the Torah? No place. And of course, a lot of the other things where they use this, you commanded us to do this and that and whatever and all that, which he hasn't done, Okay, of course, God never commanded us to light Channukah candles. No, he didn't. The addition of this commandment by the rabbis is in direct violation of the Torah, which commands us, "You shall not add it to the law which I command you, and not shall you diminish from it." Yeah. So the next one, Deuteronomy 4:2. That's maybe in regards of the thing that they're quoting. You shall not add to the law which I command you, not shall you diminish from it. Deuteronomy 4:2. Similarly, we read, "All that I command you, you shall diligently do. You shall not add to it nor diminish from it." Deuteronomy 13:1. In Proverbs 36, we are taught, "Do not add it to his words, lest he rebuke you, and you be found a liar." To light the Channukah candles and bless God for commanding us to do so is adding to the Torah and lying in the name of God. But this is not the only lie. The historical Channukah celebrated 2,200 years ago by the Maccabees themselves had nothing to do with the alleged miracle of the candelabrum. In order to sort out, that would be the menorah thing in regards to these 9 lights and all that. Anyway, in order to sort out facts from fiction, we must consider the historical events surrounding Channukah and the origin of the practice of lighting Channukah lamps. And of course, overall, we just go back to the Torah and we use the Torah, the law of God, as a measurement. That's the same with Christmas, Christ Mass, or Yule, as we call it in Danish, which goes back to Odin, but that's another. So you can see pagan direction, one direction and another direction, right? In regards of leading you to the pagan high priest of the Pontifex Maximus, that would be in our days the so-called Pope. That's most people know him as the Pope. Which, means, if I remember correctly, Father as well. So again, it's, Yeshua said we have only one Father and he is the one in the heavens, not on earth. Don't call anyone on earth Father. But of course, this pagan system of Roman Catholicism doesn't care. It just makes it out to say it's Christian, yet it's utter pagan bullshit. Anyway, and the problem is a lot of people actually, looking into Christianity ends up looking to Roman Catholicism and then finds out it's just pagan bullshit, so why would I have anything to do with that? And they miss out in regards to who Yeshua really is. They never get to read the first 4 books of the New Testament in regards of Matthew, Mark, Lucas, and John, and warning in regards of Paulus. Paulus was a Roman Pharisee, and all Asia rejected Paulus. All Asia, according to himself. 2 Timothy 1:15. Go read it, and afterwards you can read Revelation 2:2. Which is Yeshua making Apostle Yohanan or John write to the 7 congregations in Asia Minor, and one of them is Ephesus, where we know Paulus had been, or Shaul. But apparently they rejected him. Now, why would they rejected him? Well, I think the reason is found in the Revelation 2:2. Actually, the 7 letters, I think. Actually, the whole book of Revelation pretty much exposes this wicked system. I think Yeshua was warning us from the beginning of the poisonous darnel, the tares, Anyway, they would grow up with the good eatable weed that he sown in the ground. Any case, that's going a little off track here, I guess. So I guess you have been warned. So be careful. Paulus, Roman Pharisee Paulus, leads a lot of people into a lot of problems. Lawlessness, attackers of the law, and all that. And he begins a lot of the practices that we still see ongoing today, attacking the truth. Anyway, cursing people, calling them Judaizers, and, whatever, and so forward. Breaking down the law of Jehovah. Anyway, let's go back. Historical background. The historical Channukah was a victory of the Jews over the Seleucid Greeks. But who are these Seleucid Greeks, and what were the Greeks doing in the land of Israel? Question mark. The story begins with Alexander the Macedonian, whom history has erroneously, there we go. English is a singing language, so anyway, history has erroneously duped Alexander the Great. In the year 322 BCE, Alexander swept through the Middle East with an army of Greek barbarians. And I remember reading a story that he apparently came to Jerusalem, I think it was, and the Jews was coming out with the book of Daniel and saying, hey, you're going to conquer the world and all that. Well, the known civilized world at that time. I don't know if that story is true, but of course Daniel was a prophet. So it wouldn't be a surprise if it, But anyway, of course, some Jews will say, well, Daniel is not in the Nevi'im. And it's like, so because he's not in the Nevi'im, according to some Jews, you don't think that Daniel was a prophet? Give me a break. He's having these visions from God, and in regards of laying the whole history of mankind down pretty much, in regards of the Babylonians, Medo-Persians, the Greeks and Romans and so forward. And we are still in the period of the Romans. So in the year 332 BCE, Alexander swept through the Middle East with an army of Greek barbarians. By the time Alexander died in 323 BCE, he had conquered the entire region from India to Egypt. Upon Alexander's death, his empire was divided into a number of smaller empires by his greedy generals. So I think it actually was 4, but I'm not, the history and all that, but we have a beast that has 4 heads, and it's like in regards to 4 horns as well, the big horn, maybe I'm wrong in regards to the horn here. I'm a little rusty, on the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. But yeah, you see the whole history prophesied in the book of Daniel, and the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation is just wonderful books pointing us to, and exposing the devil's the devil's plan, So. Yeah, anyway, in 312 BCE, Seleucus, I think it's Seleucus the First, one of Alexander's generals, established the Seleucid Empire in Syria. So, you usually see, the North Kingdom and the South Kingdom of Greece being in battle with each other and all that. It seems to be those that are seemingly most important in regards of history and all that, in regards of biblical thing. Anyway, the main rival of the Seleucid Empire was the Ptolemaic Empire that was in the south, established in Egypt by another of Alexander's generals, Ptolemy I. The land of Israel, which lay between the Seleucid and Ptolemaic empires, switched hands numerous times as the two empires fought one another. So the land of Israel, that would be the chosen land, flips hands from one to another and so forward over the time of. It seems like it's a center point of conflict in regards to these two empires. But anyway, in the year 200 BCE, the Seleucids finally captured the land of Israel, and the Ptolemies were unsuccessful and taking it back. So we have so that's the Seleucids. Okay, the Maccabean revolt, the historical event that culminated in Channukah are told in great detail in books of 1 and 2nd, 1st and 2nd Maccabees. And I think there was a 3rd Maccabees as well. I can't remember if I read that, but anyway, 1 and 2 is the standard books that is accepted. it's history in regards to what was going on and in these times. So First and Second Maccabees are reliable histories written within a few decades after the event and based on eyewitness accounts. First and Second Maccabees are actually parallel accounts by two different authors who describe many of the same events. The story of Channukah itself begins in 168 BCE, when the land of Israel was ruled by the evil Seleucid Greek king Antiochus IV. The Seleucid Empire included a great variety of nations, each with their own culture and religion. Antiochus IV believed that his empire would be more secure if all his subjects became more Greek. So in 168 BCE, Antiochus IV issued a decree requiring all his subjects worship only the Greek gods and adopt the Greek culture. This policy was known as Hellenization, to make Greek, and it was readily accepted by most of the citizens of the Seleucid Empire, who had been convinced by decades of propaganda that the Greek way of life was more advanced and cultured. However, the Jews naturally resisted the worship of false gods. To force Hellenization upon the Jews, Antiochus IV enacted a series of laws designed to suppress Torah observance. And here we see a quote from it. I don't know if, the network status is poor. I have no idea why it's saying that. And again, I don't know where the bottleneck is, but if it's YouTube or, sometimes it's just running without any problem. I don't think it's my connection, because my connection is, I've seen it's being full and still complaining. So it seems like it must be something with YouTube anyway. And the king sent letters by mission, and I haven't tried other platforms, so I don't really know. But if it works on other platforms without any problems, it might just be YouTube, But it's uploading in like 720p, and I don't know why it needs to go so far up on that. I wouldn't have a problem going down. The quality should be pretty good anyway. But anyway, let's get back to it. And the king sent letters by messengers to Jerusalem and the cities of Judah. He directed them to follow customs strange to the land, to forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings to the sanctuary, to profane Sabbaths and feasts, to defile the sanctuary and the priests, to build altars and sacred precincts and shrines. Not sure what precincts. Can I actually? No, it's copies it all. Okay, let's see if we can just have a look on that. If I can remember it in my head. Come on. Okay, it's just a little slow. Recording and all that. So precincts. And that's the thing, if I could, I would lower the resolution of the Bible. Okay.
Precinct.
Okay, a district of a city or town marked out for administrative purposes. If I went down in resolution, it would have more power for recording in the video itself. But anyway, but they don't give you that choice, because they want to sell mobiles. Anyway, which are locked down and don't give you the freedom to do whatever you want with the mobile. Okay. So to profane Sabbaths and feast, to defile the sanctuary and the priest, to build altars and sacred precincts and shrines for idols, to sacrifice swine and unclean animals, and to leave their sons uncircumcised. They were to make themselves abominable by everything unclean and profane, so that they should forget the law and change all the ordinances. and whoever does not obey the command of the king shall die. First Maccabees 1:44 to 50. So here we see some of the things that the Greeks wanted them to do, and of course the Jews would not go along with that, and I think that's pretty, breaking the commandments of Jehovah, absolutely no go. So the king's laws, that's man-made laws, right, were instituted in a number of ways. The first thing they did was to capture the temple and sacrifice pigs to Zeus on the holy altar. And as I understand it, that was something in regards of, I guess, but the problem is, I remember a source. I think it's actually from Margaret. I can't remember if it's actually in the book of Maccabees as well. That this was done on the birth of Zeus, which apparently also is then related to a sun god. I don't know in regards to that, but yeah. Anyway, but if I remember, they actually sanctified the temple again at the same time where the defilement had been done. I was something in regards to that. I can't remember the whole details on that. But anyway, at the same time, so this is a false god and all that. So at the same time, they required every Jewish household to set up an altar to the sun god. Okay, so it actually verifies, I guess, that this is in regards to sun god, sun god, at the main entrance of their home. Then the Seleucid authorities set up public altars in every time in Judea and forced the community leaders to eat the pig sacrifices to Zeus before their fellow Jews. Many Jews gladly accepted Hellenization, and these became known as the Hellenized Jews. But most Jews preferred martyrdom over eating the pagan sacrifices. When the Seleucids arrived in Modi'in, in a small town in the hills of Samaria, they tried to force a local priest by the name of Mattiyahu, the Hasmoneans, Matthias, apparently in Greek, Mattiyahu, what do you call it? Matityahu, I think. Maybe Matityahu. I'm not entirely sure. It's not always easy with the shava of the two dots, to know if it's like, and you have a double T as well. You actually have three T's. It's a dot in the middle and so forth. Anyway, so Jehovah's gifts to eat of the pig sacrifice. Matthias, the Hasmoneans, and his sons ascended the podium in the public square, but rather than eat of the pig's sacrifice, they turned on the Seleucid authorities, killing them in front of all the local townsmen. Matthias and his sons immediately became outlaws and fled to the mountains, where they joined the growing Jewish resistance against the Seleucid persecutions. Matthias, son of Judah, became a leader of the struggle against the Seleucids, and he was such a fierce warrior that he was dubbed Judah the Hammer. So in Hebrew, Makkeved, okay. Judah the Makkeved is better known today by the Greek form of his name, Judah the Maccabee. So, Judas or Maccabeus or something like that. And by the way, we have Jastro, page 829 in regards of the footnote. After 3 years of fierce fighting, Judah the Maccabee and his army finally defeated the Seleucid Greeks and liberated Jerusalem. They cleansed the temple of pagan artifacts and rededicated the altar, which had been used to sacrifice pigs to Zeus. But didn't they actually make a new altar? Actually, I think they actually hit the defiled altar. They knew what to do with it, as I remember from the books of Maccabees. and I think they built a new one, and there was no prophet among them to tell them what to do with it. So anyway, the liberation of Jerusalem and the rededication of the altar is this. I think it was another altar. If I remember correctly in regards to the books, if my memory serves me, they took away the altar and built a new one and dedicated, the thing, because the altar had become unclean by the defiling of the unclean pig. So they didn't really know what to do, So they hid it away, according to what I remember, and they, until a prophet of God would show up that could tell them what to do with it, Anyway, the liberation of Jerusalem and the rededication of the altar is described in great detail in the 4th chapter of First Maccabees. Now, when the Maccabees first liberated Mount Zion, that would be, that's, also Mount Zion is also used for in regards of Jerusalem and all that. But yeah, anyway, they were horrified to find it desecrated. All the army assembled, and they went up to Mount Zion, and they saw the sanctuary desolate and altar profaned, and the gates burned. And I guess in regards of, and when you actually go to Jerusalem today, the Mount Zion, it does seem to be, they seem to have put in the name on the wrong mountain. But yeah, because the Mount Zion, if I remember correctly, is actually in the area of one of the Christian areas, and not where where it is believed that the temple would be standing, or that actually, I guess that's pretty surety that the temple would stand up there. But anyway, in any case, all the so that's interesting that it seems like there might have been I don't know, but it's just a little weird, Anyway, all this army assembled, and they went up to Mount Zion, and they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profaned, and the gates burned in the courts. They saw bushes sprung up as in the thicket, or as in one of the mountains. They also saw the chambers of the priest in ruins. When they rent their clothes, typical thing to see in regards to mourning and grieving and all that. And of course, the high priest is not allowed to do it, and he actually does it in the New Testament. So, in regards of Yeshua and all that, he actually tears his clothing, and that's a sin, according to the law of Moses. And then they rent their clothes and mourned with great lamentation and sprinkled themselves with ashes. So First Maccabees 4:37 to 39. So again, rending their clothing and mourning and great lamentation and sprinkled themselves with ashes. So yeah, that's mourning. After fasting, apparently also fasting. And mourning over the defilement of the temple, the Maccabees proceeded to tear down the altar, which had been used to sacrifice pigs to Zeus. So, and apparently Zeus is just a sun god, apparently. So that's one more sun god, I guess, But there's a lot of those, And they cleansed the sanctuary and removed the defiled stones to an unclean place. They deliberate what to do, and yeah, I guess in regards to the time zone, if it began to be sacrificed on the 25th December, which might have been using another calendar and all that. But of course, we know that the Jewish calendar can swing by a month, so even if Channukah is I guess it could still be possible, I guess, that they might have sacrificed it, even if it's the same time that the sacrifices began to Zeus. If it's actually not the same amount of time in regards to 3 years, well, it could still be some variations, I would guess, in regards of Anyway, in any case, it's very close. Look at it today. We are keeping people are keeping Hanukkah and Christmas pretty much at the same time. But, you can see how it varies from year to year because of the calendar, of the Jewish calendar. They're not using the Roman pagan sun calendar. Anyway, and they thought it best. Now, of course, they have some other things with the calendar. There might be some issues because they're not using the land of Israel, to actually when to begin the year and all that. But yeah, anyway. And they thought it best to tell. Okay, so they see here, and they cleansed the sanctuary and removed the defiled stones to an unclean place. They deliberated what to do about the altar of burnt offerings which had been profaned. And they thought it best to tear it down, lest it bring reproach upon them, for the Gentiles had defiled it. So they tore down the altar and stored the stones in a convenient place on the temple hill, until there should come a prophet to tell what to do with them. So again, that was the thing I was talking about. At least my memory did seem to remember it correctly. And they took unhewn stones in the Lord directs and built a new altar like the former one. First Maccabees 4:43-47. The Maccabees were unsure as to what to do with the altar, which was holy yet defiled. So to solve the dilemma, the Maccabees tore down the desecrated altar, but stored the stones in the temple until, or close by, in a temple until a prophet could tell them what had to be done with the stones. So anyway. So, after building a new altar in accordance with Exodus 20:24-26, the Maccabees cleansed the temple and replaced the temple vessels, which had been stolen by the Greeks. Okay, apparently that's number 4, so that would be that the other temple vessels were stolen is described in 1 Maccabees 1:20-24 or 2 Maccabees 5:21. Okay, so let's go on. They also rebuilt the sanctuary and the interior of the temple and consecrated the courts. They made new holy vessels. Let's see here, okay. They made new holy vessels and brought the lampstand and the altar of incense. There's like, okay, so, okay. That lampstand and the altar of incense and the table into the temple. Then they burned incense on the altar and lighted the lamps on the lampstand, and these gave light in the temple. They placed the bread on the table and hung up the curtains. Thus they finished all the work they had undertaken. 1 Maccabees 4:48-51. And 2 Maccabees, I'm not sure, it seems like this is things in regards of talking, and then it goes on to the problem is this is flying around to the left and the right and all that, instead of actually having the ability to just stand fast on one place, and then, because then I would actually be able to see that this is, a little to the right in the text. So I have no idea why they wouldn't make this feature, but yeah, it's very annoying. It would be, the program would be perfect if they did that, I think. Anyway, 2 Maccabees similarly described the restoration of the temple. They purified the sanctuary and made another altar of sacrifice. Then, striking fire out of flint, they offered sacrifices after a lapse of 2 years. And they burnt incense and lighted lamps and set out the bread of the presence. So, they didn't take a 9 menorah into the temple. They took the 7 candles of the menorah. The thing that is prescribed in the Torah, not 9 lights. So, anyway, going on. After fixing up the temple and replacing the vessels, it was time to dedicate the new altar and re-establish the daily sacrifice which has been offered during the which had not been offered during the 3 years which the Greeks controlled the temple. The rededication was celebrated on the 25th of Kislev, which marked the first anniversary of the original desecration of the temple by the Greeks. So let's see, the rededication was celebrated on the 25th of Kislev, which marked the first anniversary of the original desecration of the temple by the Greeks. Now, I guess in regards, I don't know what the Jewish calendar says at the moment, but I would guess it would be it's very close to the, winter solstice, right? In regards of if the Greeks was actually sacrificing at that time, beginning at the point of the winter solstice, it might have been in regards to the birth of the sun gods. Apparently Zeus seems to be a sun god as well. It's just all the sun worship is just everywhere. Anyway, early in the morning on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is the month of Kislev, in the 148th year. And by the way, I think Kislev and many of these words actually come from when they were in Babylon. So in regards to the Torah, God doesn't use these Babylonian terms of the month. He uses the first, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and seventh, and so forward of month. Of course, the first month is called Aviv. If I remember correctly, in regards to the Aviv, it's the month of the Aviv, so that would be the first month. But all these other things, Tammuz and all that, this is from Babylon, if I remember correctly. So they picked these, month names up, and why not just return to what God pretty much have given us? We don't need all that bullshit, So that would be the 9th month, which is the month of Kislev. In the 148th year, they rose and offered sacrifice, as the law directs, on the new altar of burnt offering, which they had built. So they celebrated the dedication of the altar for 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness. They offered a sacrifice of deliverance and praise. Then Judas and his brothers and all the assembly of Israel determined that every year at the season the days of dedication of the altar should be observed with gladness and joy for 8 days, beginning with the 25th day of the month of Kislev. So the question is this something commanded in the law of Moses? And it's not. So isn't it adding to... And then further down the line, it's evolving, so to doing these weird things, Anyway, similarly, we read in 2nd Maccabees, it happened that on the same day on which the sanctuary had been profaned, and also, keeping this might disrupt what God is trying to teach us by keeping his own commandments in regards to the festivals. I don't know, but it seems to be distorting a little. When you have the last great day, right? That is the end. That's the end festival of the year, right? So, but it's not if you have Channukah, right? Then and I think I can't remember when Purim actually is. I think it's close, isn't it? Do I have a calendar maybe out here too? I can't remember when Purim is. I think it might be close to the same. Let's see here. Don't I have it someplace where I actually have the whole? There we go. Okay, it's broken. So there we go. So let's see, Purim. Purim is actually later. No, maybe let's see, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so Purim actually comes later. So Purim becomes the last festival of the year. Well, but in God's time and God's calendar, actually, by the way, if you want to see what I'm looking at, I'm looking at Michael Root's, thing here in regards. So it's a little old, but still, have the different things and all that. But you can see like here we have the festival of Sukkot, and this is the last great day, and here we have Channukah, and then we have Purim. And of course, Purim have a lot of, it has a lot of, carnival. It just seems really like carnival stuff. And we know carnival, have pagan. So I wouldn't do that either. And again, it's adding to the Torah. And I remember reading about in regards of Purim. And if you go look, you can find information about the Jewish so-called sages, whatever you want to call them. And when Esther or I think she was like Hadassah or something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, it seems, by the way, that Esther might actually go back to Venus, the star, in regards to the name. Now, it's not to say that, but that would maybe link it up with Easter and all that. And all, many different names of anyway. In any case, yeah, but as I understand it, she was telling the Jews, hey, keep this and all that, and the sages was like, this isn't this adding to the Torah? They were actually discussing this. Isn't this adding to the Torah? And apparently she pushed on it again, according to what I remember, and actually made them keep it. I don't know. It's just, it's not something that is found in the Torah, So that's my concern, that we might actually end up, defiling, but that we're actually polluting the image that God want us to have in regards of, what is going on in the world, because, the festivals seem to be all about Yeshua and instructions of, to know what has happened in the past, what is going to happen in the future, and so forward. A lot of things. This is the festivals of Jehovah, and connect them with what is going on in the world. And if we put, our own festivals in there, it might pollute the. It's the same thing with the Jews in regards to the New Year, right? Instead of having the New Year when Jehovah told us to have the New Year, they are having it in the 7th month, in the beginning of the 7th month, or in the last, in regards of the 6th month, So they're having it the New Year in the fall, but that's not biblical, It just messes up the calendar of God. When God instructed us to keep, that the first month was in regards to when we're keeping Passover, that's in spring. It messes a lot of things up. It's getting dark already. So, so that's my concern with these things. Anyway. And of course, it also seems to actually be leading people into, some people end up being led to Judaism and beginning to do their so-called, rabbinic, things and all that. And it's just, it's very sad. I remember talking when I was in Jerusalem, I talked to a woman that had turned away from Jesus, or Yeshua. She had lost faith and apparently was now, an observant Jew, joining Judaism. And I'm like, how can you deny that Yeshua is the Messiah? It's like so much about, I was really, stirred up. It's like, there's like so much about him. How can you just, just anyway. It's very sad. So hopefully she, but anyway, so that's very sad. So let's try that again, I guess. Let's see where we hang up the curtains and all that. They purified the sanctuary and made altar of sacrifices. Then striking fire of the flint, they offered sacrifices after a lapse of 2 years. And they burned incense and lighted lamps and set out the bread of the presence. After fixing the temple and replacing the vessels, it was time to dedicate the new altar and re-establish the. Couldn't we just actually move that? I don't know why the program doesn't remove this. And re-establish the daily sacrifice, which is okay. Let's try to take that over. After fixing up the temple and replacing the vessels, it was time to dedicate the new altar and re-establish the daily sacrifice, which had not been offered during the 3 years which the Greeks controlled the temple. The rededication was celebrated on the 25th of Kislev, which marked the third anniversary of the original desecration of the temple by the Greeks. Early in the morning on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is the month of Kislev, in the 148th year, they rose and offered sacrifice as the law directs, on a new altar of burnt offering which they had built. So they celebrated the dedication of the altar for 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness. They offered a sacrifice of deliverance and praise. Then Judas and his brothers and all the assembly of Israel determined that every year of that season the days of dedication of the altar should be observed with gladness and joy for 8 days, beginning with the 25th day of the month of Kislev. Similar, we read in 2 Maccabees, it happened that on the same day on which the sanctuary had been profaned by the foreigners, the purification of the sanctuary took place, that is, on the 25th day of the same month, which was Kislev, and they celebrated it for 8 days with rejoicing. Now again, the Greeks probably didn't use the Jewish calendar, and again, we know that the Jewish calendar have a way of, I don't know what calendar they used, the Greeks, but they might have used another calendar, and again, having some differences in regards of the Jewish calendar. So it might have been the same day on the Jewish calendar and yet been a different day in the solar year, if you're following. I don't know. I haven't looked into it more, but I think that might be a possibility. And if they are worshipping sun gods, apparently Zeus seems to be a sun god according to these things. Then it wouldn't be such a surprise if they began doing it at the birth. I don't know, but anyway, it's a thought. They decreed by public ordinance and vote that the whole nation of Jews should observe these days every year. 2 Maccabees 10:5-8. When we read the description in 1 Maccabees and 2 Maccabees of the first Channukah, the thing which is most notable by its absence is the miracle of the magical oil and the 8 days of free light. Free light, I guess, lightening the candles. Anyway, 1 Maccabees 4:50 and 2 Maccabees 10:3 do mention that the candelabrum in the temple was lit, but they also mentions that the sacrifices were offered and the showbread placed on the table. Yeah, in regards of, candelabrum in the temple, if you just read it, you're just, they're just lightening all the candles as far as I can, gather. Nothing in regards of waiting and all that. They were lighting all the candles. Yet there's no mention of the miracle of the magical oil. This is all the more surprising when we consider that 1 Maccabees describes events in great detail, yet 1 and 2 Maccabees do not contain a single reference to the main miracle of Channukah, the miracle of the single vial of oil that lasted for 8 days, why would 1st and 2nd Maccabees, both written shortly after the historical events themselves, dedicate 2 entire books to the festival of Channukah, yet remain silent on the miracle, which was supposedly the reason for the festival? This silence raises the question of whether this miracle ever took place. And then we go with the original meaning. Let's take that as well. How long is it? Okay, so the original meaning of Channukah. If the reason for Channukah is not the miracle of the magical oil, then what is it? First Maccabees explained that the reason for the celebration by Judah the Maccabee and his men was the dedication of the altar. According to the Torah and all that, the laws found in the Torah. But anyway, what does the dedication of the altar have to do with Channukah? The word Channukah actually means dedication, deriving from the root to dedicate. Okay. The full name of the festival is Channukah HaMitzbeach. Okay, let's see. Chanukah, or Chanukah, maybe. HaMitzbeach, something like that, meaning dedication of the altar. So the original Channukah had nothing to do with the alleged miracle of the candelabrum and the magical oil. Instead, it was a celebration over the dedication of the altar, since the Maccabees built a new altar to replace the old, one which had been desecrated by pagan sacrifice. This is exactly what First Maccabees says. So, they celebrated the dedication of the altar for 8 days. Then Judas and his brothers and all the assembly of Israel determined that every year of that season the days of dedication of the altar should be observed with gladness and joy for 8 days. So, from First Maccabees, it is clear that the historical festival of Channukah had nothing to do with the alleged miracle of the magical oil. The celebration was Chanukah HaMitzbeach, a dedication of the altar. What is still unclear from First Maccabees is why the dedication celebration lasted for 8 days. The dedication of the original altar in the time of Moses is also called a Chanukah HaMitzbeach, dedication of the altar. The dedication of the altar of the tabernacle lasted for 12 days, as we read in Numbers 7:11. And Jehovah said to Moses, 1 prince each day shall offer their sacrifices as the dedication of the altar. La Chanukah HaMitzbeach, or something like that. I think that was something in regards of, that's like a second Sukkot. They missed the festival of Sukkot. So I think that as far as I remember, they fixes a second Sukkot as well. So the dedication is in some sense on the second Sukkot, but Jehovah hasn't commanded us to do a second Sukkot if we go over time, right? Anyway, since there were 12 princes, one for each tribe, the dedication lasted 12 days, Numbers 7-84. The dedication to the altar of the first temple lasted 7 days, as we read in 2 Chronicles 7:9-10, and they observed an assembly on the 8th day, for they had performed the dedication of the altar for 7 days, and the pilgrimage feast for 7 days. And on the 23rd day of the 7th month, he, Solomon, sent the people to their tents. See also 1 Kings 8:65-66. So Solomon dedicated the temple from the 8th to the 14th of the 7th month. After the dedication of the altar, they observed the pilgrim's feast of Sukkot from the 15th to the 21st, and the 8th of assembly on the 32nd. So that would be the last great day and all that in regards of the 8th. So when Zerubbabel led the exiles back from Babylonia, they built the altar as described in Ezra 3 to 2 to 4. And Yeshua the son of Yotzadak and his brethren the priest, and Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel and his brethren arose and built the altar of the God of Israel, to offer upon it whole burnt offerings, as written in the Torah of Moses the man of God. And they set up the altar on its foundations, but did not build the temple, for the terror of the inhabitants of the land was upon them. And they offered whole burnt offerings to Jehovah, whole burnt offerings for the morning and evening, and they performed the feast of Sukkot, as it is written. So we see that Yeshua and Zerubbabel only set up the altar, but were afraid to complete the rebuilding of the temple itself because of the threat of the surrounding nations. So in the time of Zerubbabel, Mount Zion had an altar upon it without a temple. Perhaps this is the reason that the altar is described as being set up rather than dedicated. The actual dedication occurred in the 3rd year of Darius on the 3rd day of the 12th month, after the second temple itself was finally completed, Ezra 6:16 to 18. Because the altar had been set up years before, the dedication of the second temple is described in Aramaic as Manukat Beit Elahah, a dedication of the house of God, Ezra 6:17, and I think I can't remember the CF. It's like a reference also, Psalms 31. Another dedication of the altar. 2nd Maccabees cites the dedications of Moses and Solomon as precedents for its own Channukah celebration. 2nd Maccabees 2:8-9, as well as the celebration of Nehemiah when he dedicated the wall of Jerusalem. Nehemiah 12:27. From the 4 dedications described in the Tanakh, we can see that the dedication of the altar temple is not always according to a set numbers of days or at a set time. Moses dedicated his altar for 12 days, Solomon for 7 days, and in Second Temple times, the altar or temple were dedicated for an undetermined number of days. We also see that the exact season of dedication varies. Solomon and Zerubbabel set up their altars around Sukkot time, but the temple in the time of Darius was dedicated on the 3rd day of the 12th month. And in the time of Moses, the date of dedication is not given. The Maccabees celebrated that dedication on the 25th of Kislev because this was the 3rd anniversary of the original desecration of the temple as described in 1st Maccabees. Early in the morning, on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is the month of Kislev, in the 148th year, they rose and offered sacrifice as the Lord directs, on the new altar of burnt offerings which they had built, at the very season and on the very day that the Gentiles had profaned it. It was dedicated with songs and harps and lutes and cymbals. 1st Maccabees 4:52-54. And again, in regards of the Greeks might not have used the same calendar, so it might have been a different date on the Greek calendar, but not on the Jewish calendar. So I don't know, but it's just something to be aware of. You see the same problems with the Roman calendar and the Jewish calendar, where you see things change from year to year. In regards of Channukah on the Roman calendar, it's not always on the same time. Sometimes Channukah is not in the time of Christ Mass, but it's before Christ Mass and so forward, right? So you see these, and the same thing with, anyway, you see them move around, a little on the Roman calendar, which follows the sun, the dead son. Similarly, we are informed in 2nd Maccabees it happened that on the same day on which the sanctuary had been profaned by the foreigners, the purification of the sanctuary took place, that is, on the 25th day of the same month, which was Kislev. So it seems like they're going by the Jewish calendar, right? So we have two witnesses here, 2nd Maccabees 10:5. So that's two witnesses at least. So Channukah as Sukkot Sheni, second booth. It is clear why the Maccabees celebrated that dedication on the 25th of Kislev. Why did they celebrate it for 8 days? Was this somehow related to the alleged miracle of the magical oil? It is not. 2nd Maccabees explain the reason for the 8 days of celebration. And they celebrated for 8 days with rejoicing in the manner of the Feast of Booths, remembering how not long before, during the Feast of Booths, they had been wandering in the mountains and caves like wild animals. 2nd Maccabees 10:6. So this is also like a replacement for a second Sukkot, it seems. And God, of course, has never told us to make a second Sukkot, He points out this is the time for Sukkot. There's no laws in regards of going, doing it in another time, So anyway, so according to 2nd Maccabees, the 8 days of Channukah were intended to make up for the Feast of Booths, which the Maccabees had been unable to observe while they were rebels in the mountains. Channukah was essentially a Sukkot Sheni, a second booth, a second Sukkot. The idea of a Sukkot Sheni comes from the biblical precedent regarding Passover, but that is in regards of Passover, not in regards of Sukkot. Anyway, in Numbers 9, we are taught that if a person is unable to bring the Passover sacrifice in the first month during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, then he must bring it 1 month later on the 14th of the second month in the evening. Essentially, this is a make-up Passover for those who missed the first one. In post-biblical writings, this make-up Passover is called Pesach Sheni, second Passover. The Maccabees had missed the Sukkot pilgrimage while they were fugitives in the mountains. So they celebrated a Sukkot Sheni on the 25th Kislev and combined it with the dedication of the altar celebration. And of course, in regards to Sukkot, usually Sukkot is on the 15th, if I remember correctly. 15 is the first day. 2 seconds. Let's go and look on the calendar. I think it was the 15th. Let's see here. Turn it around. Yeah, it's starting on the 15th, the Feast of Tabernacle, 15 to the 22, and that will be the last great day. So anyway, that was pretty good. Wow, I'm getting heated in here. Let's open a door. So, let's see here. So, a Sukkot Sheni on the 25 Kislev and combined it with the dedication of the altar celebration. Perhaps the fact that Solomon and Zerubbabel dedicated the altars around Sukkot time also suggested to the Maccabees that Sukkot was the appropriate festival to associate with the dedication. Channukah was so much identified as a Sukkot Sheni, second Sukkot, that 2nd Maccabees 1:9 even refers to it as the Feast of Booths in the month of Kislev. In 2nd Maccabees 1:18, the Jews of the land of Israel write to their brethren in Egypt, "Since on the 25th day of Kislev we shall celebrate the purification of the temple, we thought it necessary to notify you in order that you also may celebrate the Feast of Booths." So that's, I guess, two witnesses in regards of, regards of the Feast of Booths, but it's not the Feast of Booths because Jehovah has never commanded us, if we miss it, to make another one, right? So anyway, again, Channukah is referred to as the Feast of Booths in the month of Kislev. That is the Sukkot Sheni. It's the second Sukkot. So the 8 days of Channukah had nothing to do with magical oil in the candelabrum or 8 days of free fire. It was simply the first opportunity the Maccabees had to make their pilgrimage to the temple and celebrate Sukkot for 8 days. Even in the following years, when they were able to celebrate Sukkot in its proper time, they continued to celebrate Channukah, which they called Sukkot in the month of Kislev. And Sukkot is in regards of the festival of Booth. We must question whether the Maccabees were justified in establishing a second Sukkot. After all, Pesach Sheni, or the second Passover, is established by the Torah, but nothing is said about Sukkot. In 1 Kings 12:32-33, Jeroboam the first is criticized for observing his own second Sukkot. Okay, so I have to check that out, I guess. First King is criticized for observing his own Sukkot Sheni in the 8th month. Let's see. 1 King 12:32. 1 King 12. Okay, let's see. Yeah, 1 King. 1 King 12:32. Nice. Okay. Let's just go to the King James Version here. And Jeroboam ordained a feast in the 8th month of the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah. And he offered upon the altar, so did he in Bethel. I guess that's the northern kingdom here. Sacrificing unto the calves that he made, and he placed in Bethel the priest of the high places which he made. So he offered upon the altar which he had made in Bethel the 15th day of the 8th month, even in the month which he had devised of his own heart, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel. And he offered upon the altar and burned incense. So this is not according to scripture, but this is according to himself. But I think there was some idolatry as well going on. But yeah, I don't think it was a positive thing, if I remember correctly, in regards to the context. So yeah, anyway, so that's if one wants to look more deeper into it, that's 1 King 12 in the bottom of the chapter, I think it was. Yeah. But I think that's in regards of the northern kingdom and all that, and they fixed their own, festival and all that. If I remember correctly, that he wants to get away from the festivals in the south, so not to have the Israelites in regard to the northern kingdom to turn back, to the Judah and all that. But anyway, let's get back to it. Okay, my brain is somewhat strained of all the informations, and I guess oh my. Yeah, that was like if you heard the boom, that's pagan celebrations as usual, banging around, in regards of fireworks and all that. Anyway, let's see here. Did we So, and the second the Maccabees had missed the Sukkot pilgrimage while they were fugitives in the mountains. So they celebrated the second Sukkot on 25 Kislev and combined it with, that would be the, I'm not sure which month, 9 months? Was it 9 months? I can't remember. And combined it with, that's I guess that's a problem with using instead of just using how God uses it. If you look at the Bible, it just gives you the number of the month. It doesn't say, it gives you the number, and then later on they begin to do these things. You see it later on after they have been in Babylon, they begin to use these words instead of how God or how they did it in the beginning, like first, second, third, fourth, and all that. Anyway, and combined it with a dedication of the altar celebration. Perhaps the fact that Solomon and Zerubbabel dedicated the altars around Sukkot time also suggested to the Maccabees that Sukkot was the appropriate festival to associate with dedication. Hanukkah was so much identified as a Sukkot, second Sukkot, that second Maccabees 1:9 even refers to it as the Feast of Booth in the month of Kislev. In 2nd Maccabees 1:18, the Jews of the land of Israel write to their brethren in Egypt, and I know I'm rereading some of this, since on the 25th day of Kislev we shall celebrate the purification of the temple, we thought it necessary to notify you in order that you also may celebrate the Feast of Booth. Again, Hanukkah is referred to as the Feast of Booth in the month of Kislev, that is second Sukkot. So the 8 days of Hanukkah had nothing to do with magical oil in the candelabrum of 8 days of free fire. It was simply the first opportunity the Maccabees had to make their pilgrimage to the temple and celebrate Sukkot for 8 days. Even in the following years, when they were able to celebrate Sukkot in its proper time, they continued to celebrate Hanukkah, which they called Sukkot in the month of Kislev. We must question whether the Maccabees were justified in establishing a second Sukkot. After all, Pesach Sheni is established by the Torah, but nothing is said about Sukkot. In 1 Kings 12:32-33, Jeroboam I is criticized for observing his own Sukkot Sheni in the 8th month. But at least it's a festival. I'm not sure if it's but it's a festival at least. I can't remember the context overall. But anyway, Jeroboam's 8th month, Sukkot, was closer to the Torah precedents of Pesach Sheni, or the second Sukkot. Was closer to the Torah. Okay. Jeroboam's 8th month, Sukkot, was closer to the Torah precedent of the Passover, the second Passover, which is exactly 1 month after the first Passover. Yet this is still reckoned as one of the great sins of Jeroboam. 1 Kings 15:30 and 1 Kings 16-31. And so on. But of course, that was in regards of idolatry as well. But anyway, the Maccabees celebrated their Sukkot Sheni 2 months and 10 days after the first Sukkot, the second Sukkot, right? Which has no biblical precedence. Then again, this was their first opportunity to celebrate the pilgrimage feast in the temple, which had been under Greek control during the original Sukkot. Whether justified or not, it is clear that Maccabees observed Hanukkah for 8 days because of the 8 days of Sukkot, which they had missed while Jerusalem was in foreign control. And maybe we should take a break here. Actually, it would be pretty nice. But Sukkot 7 or 8 days, and I think we'll just stop here. This 1 hour and 45 minutes. Let's just turn it around here. There we go. So I'll make a pause here and get some food and whatever and all that. For the next video, can read on. It's like refreshing a lot of the things. It's and I guess one of the reasons why I forgot about a lot of it is just like I made my conclusion. It's not found in the Torah. I have enough to do with the festivals of Jehovah to focus on those. And so already before all these things, I already had pretty much made my mind up, that I wouldn't partake in this. So, any case. So even with all these weird things that might actually lead back to some, bullshit paganism, in regards to the lighting of candles and saying that God commanded them to do it when he did not and all that. Anyway, and I don't understand why Christians are like, they're seeing the problems with Christ Mass. And then they just run to this other thing, I think it's one fallacy running to another fallacy of man-made bullshit. But anyway, it's nice in regards of historical to know things and all that, absolutely. But yeah, God didn't command us to do this, you know, and that's my problem, you know. It's not commanded, you know. Anyway, maybe I'm just too legalistic or whatever. I don't know, but that's how I see it. Anyway, have a good one, all of you. May Jehovah bless you and be with you. And may Yeshua be that most precious pearl. And don't let go of him when you have found him, because the devil will try. And may the Spirit of Jehovah be in us all. You know, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth. Amen. Amen. You know, to stand for the truth as the best of our ability, you know. Taking rope from Satan, pretty much. That's the thing. And we're not perfect, but you know, we can do a lot of damage to Satan in regards to promoting truth instead of lies and deceptions. You know. So yeah. Anyway, I'll stop this, and maybe I should actually have found it on the internet as well, but because it takes a little time for, I guess it needs to fix it anyway, YouTube. So. Anyway, have a good one, and I guess, try to post it up when it's done. Maybe I could actually get the link, actually, by just and post it. And it takes a little time to get accepted anyway, if it's going to get it accepted anyway. Let's see here. YouTube. Movie not available. I'm on coming up with a lot of things here. You know, the YouTube have closed me out, so I have to use another computer to actually get into my old account. You know, that was actually just an account that was just an account that was come on, it's a very slow computer here. There we go, my channel. And see if I can get the link. There we go, live at the moment. Great, push that. Then I have the link at least for it, because then it, you know, it usually removes the thing after you've made it. Oh, there we go. Yep. By the way, we have a little drawing in regards of. It's a little hard. I guess you have to turn the camera around. This is some of my from years ago and all that. So. Yeah. And of course, in regards to my calculations in regards of the Passover, so some of the things that I scratched down years ago and it's still sitting there in regards of, in regards of finding out when Yeshua was actually executed and so forward. And as you can see, like, you have 36 to 38 hours if you go from Friday to Sunday, you know. You have 60 to 62 hours from the time of the grave being found empty to Thursday. So the only other option you pretty much has is that Yeshua was executed on Wednesday. So, but that's another topic. You know, I should stop here. But you know, the thing is, you know, a lot of the you know, whatever you want to call them, you know, priest, whatever. And they will say, well, you know, they will excuse that in regards to 3 days and 3 nights, right? When it doesn't add up in regards of these days. But that's one thing. But then try to go in the other direction. Now, of course, people don't read the Torah and so forward. So, you know, they you know, if you go the other direction, you hit into a problem as well, you know. But anyway, that's... I guess you hit into a lot of problems, and the thing is, if you want to get all the pieces to actually fit, you know, I think you need to go in the middle of the week for his execution. But anyway, a lot of others have done research on these things and come up to the same conclusions, and that's, you know, that's nice. It's nice to see that other people are getting to the same conclusions, you know, by just studying the things, and, you know, it puts some... more validity to it, I think, you know, that people that are interested in the subject, actually doing studies on the subject and all that, actually comes to the same conclusions. That's nice, you know. Anyway, have a good one. I'll stop the video now. Nearly 2 hours is also a good amount of time, right?